the years, From Software has become infamous for its challenging, unforgiving, and hard-to-master games. From Dark Souls to Elden Ring, each adventure offers a new and unique test for players to overcome. However, this difficulty is often overstated, and with the right know-how, players can become masters of these worlds. So today, to help you on your journey to becoming Elden Lord, here are 6 useful combat tips. Number 6, learn difficult bosses' movesets. The most frustrating thing in Elden Ring is how difficult some of its bosses can be, but even its most difficult enemies offer players openings to attack. When facing down a boss or an enemy who is taking you to town over and over again, instead of bashing your head against it, try to learn its moves and its attack patterns. For example, Godric will almost always do his jumping attack if you stand close to him when he swings his axe around. He rolls towards the player, jumps up, and does a very easy dodge downward slam, and for a few seconds afterwards, players can get a ton of easy hits in.
I command thee.
Number 5, stamina management. A player's stamina governs how many moves, blocks, and dodges they can pull off. Having a high stamina helps curb a lot of management in this area, but players who are just getting into the game early on will find this to be a pretty substantial challenge indeed. This is why it's important to keep a keen eye out on stamina at all times. Getting greedy with hits means that players will have a slight delay while dodging, and running out of stamina while blocking will lead to a player being very vulnerable as well. Number 4, take advantage of iframes. An ever-present feature in From Software's Soulsborne games, iframes can be somewhat hard to define despite being crucial to success in combat. Ultimately, iframes represent the period of invincibility players have while rolling. Every enemy attack in Elden Ring will have a specific moment when players should roll. If timed correctly, players will use iframes to roll through attacks unscathed. Timing can be tough, with attacks usually requiring players to dodge right at the last second, but with practice, players will succeed. Number 3, status effects. Enemies in Elden Ring all have their own weaknesses. Each is especially weak to a certain type of damage, and once this type is discovered, combat can become much easier. Specifically, players can apply these damage types to their weapons and consumable items, or use weapons with that damage type baked in. Bleed and Frost are especially powerful in Elden Ring, with enemies crumbling when faced with a blood loss build. To use these damage types, apply greases to weapons. These greases can be found in the world or crafted by the player. Number 2, utilize Torrent. Elden Ring features a new mechanic that has not been present in previous From Software games, that being the player's trusty steed, Torrent. While the mount is mostly used for traversal, this loyal horse is also key in a number of combat encounters. Torrent is vital when fighting enemies such as dragons and Erdtree avatars. He allows players to quickly strike enemies before exiting the situation at speed. Indeed, without Torrent, the game's many dragon fights become exceptionally hard, and while he isn't available at all times, he certainly is a useful tool when he is. Number 1, push for staggers. Staggering bosses has always been an aspect of From Software games, but in Elden Ring they are more important than ever. Both bosses and enemies are extremely weak to stagger buildup. Once an enemy's stagger meter is full, they will fall to the ground and allow players to deal huge damage with a critical hit. Jumping attacks, heavy attacks, and Ashes of War are all vital in buildup of an enemy's stagger meter. Use them throughout combat in order to gain a huge advantage over the game's enemies. So those were our Elden Ring combat tips. We hope they were helpful, and good luck out there, Tarnished.